So last night, right, I was lying in bed at like midnight, just scrolling, and I told myself 5 more minutes, just five. And then I looked up and it was 2 in the morning. Two. And the worst part, I honestly couldn't even tell you what I was looking at.
Yeah, and I think pretty much everyone listening right now has been exactly there. Welcome to Let's Talk Real English, the podcast where we talk about real topics in real English for real people.
I'm Laura.
And I'm Eric. And today we are getting into something that, honestly, I think about a lot. Is social media actually helping us, or is it kind of slowly making things worse?
Right. And I just want to say up front, this is not going to be one of those conversations where we just say, oh, social media is terrible, everyone delete your apps, because it's way more complicated than that, like genuinely complicated.
Way more complicated, exactly. So let's just jump in. And I'll be honest, I think I'm going to be the one kind of defending social media today, at least to start. Because the way people talk about it sometimes, it's like they forget how powerful it actually is as a tool.
Okay, I hear you. Make your case.
So think about it this way. Before social media, if you were, I don't know, a teenager in a small town, and you were really into like illustration or coding or some niche topic that nobody around you cared about, you were kind of alone with that, you know? You had no one to talk to about it. But now you go online, you find your people, like instantly.
Yeah, to be fair, that's actually a really good point. I have a friend who's really into this kind of very specific type of embroidery, like a traditional style from her grandmother's region. And she found this whole community online, people from different countries sharing techniques, giving feedback, and she said it genuinely changed her life. Like, she went from doing it completely alone in her room to actually selling her work internationally.
Right, right. And that's not a small thing. That's connection, that's education, that's even like a real career opportunity, all from social media. I mean, that kind of story just wouldn't have been possible 20 years ago.
Okay, but here's where I want to push back a little. Because yes, those stories exist, and they're beautiful, honestly. But I feel like for every story like that, there are, I don't know, 10 people who are just scrolling, not creating anything, not connecting with anyone, just consuming, endlessly consuming.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. That's a real distinction, actually. Like, are you using social media or is social media using you?
Exactly. And I think that's kind of the core of this whole debate, right? Because the platforms, they're not designed to make you feel good. They're designed to keep you on there as long as possible. And the way they do that is they feed you stuff that triggers strong emotion, excitement, anger, fear, whatever keeps you clicking.
Yeah, and okay, I'll admit this. I actually read how the algorithms are specifically set up to prioritize content that gets a strong reaction. Anger, outrage, fear. That stuff spreads way faster than like a calm, nuanced post that says, well, it's complicated.
Which is why misinformation is such a huge problem, because a headline that says something shocking, even if it's totally false, gets shared way more than a careful, fact checked article. Like, the math on that is just not in our favor.
Yeah, and that one, honestly, that one scares me because we're living in this world where people genuinely believe things that just aren't true. And a lot of that, like a lot of it, traces directly back to how information spreads on social media.
Right. And what's really tricky is that it's not always some obvious, dramatic fake news story. Sometimes it's just small distortions, small exaggerations, a photo taken slightly out of context, a statistic quoted without its source. And over time, your whole sense of what's real kind of slowly shifts.
Okay, so I want to bring up the mental health angle because I think that's where it gets really personal for a lot of people. And honestly, I've gone back and forth on this one myself.
And that connects to something else I think is really important here, which is the idea of echo chambers. Because when the algorithm decides what to show you based on what you've already engaged with, It ends up feeding you more and more of the same thing. So your world online gets smaller and smaller without you even realizing it. You stop seeing perspectives that challenge you. You stop encountering ideas that make you reconsider. And you start to genuinely believe that everyone thinks the way you do, because in your feed, they kind of do.
Yeah, talk to me about that.
Yeah, that's the filter bubble problem. And it's one of those things that's genuinely hard to see when you're inside it. Like, you might believe your view on something is just obvious or common sense because literally everyone in your feed agrees with you. But that's not reality. That's a curated slice of reality. And I think that contributes massively to the polarization we're seeing right now. People on different sides of an issue aren't even encountering the same information anymore. They're living in completely different versions of the world.
So there's a lot of research, right, that says, especially for teenagers, especially for girls, social media is really damaging. There are studies showing links to anxiety, depression, eating disorders, lower self esteem, and it's hard to just wave that away, you know? Like, it's hard to look at that data and go, yeah, but here's a cool creative community.
Exactly. And what makes it even trickier is that people aren't choosing to be close minded. The system is pushing them there. The algorithm rewards engagement, and outrage drives engagement better than almost anything else. So it's not the kind of productive disagreement that actually makes you grow, it's just firing people up, getting them angry, and then that anger feeds right back into the cycle. You share the thing, you get more of the same, and the loop continues.
Right. And I think the antidote to that is something we don't talk about enough, which is deliberately seeking out different perspectives. Like intentionally following people you disagree with, reading things that challenge your assumptions, not to get into arguments, but just to keep your understanding of the world honest and complete. Because honestly, if everything you read is confirming exactly what you already believe, that should make you a little bit suspicious, not reassured.
It really is, and I think a huge part of that is comparison culture. Like, you're sitting at home on a Tuesday night, feeling kind of tired and just blah, you know? And your feed is full of people on vacation, people who look incredible, people who just got promoted, people at parties, people who seem like they have it all together, and you're just there.
And the thing is, you know it's not real. Like, intellectually, you know everyone only posts their highlights. Nobody posts the argument they had, or the bad skin day, or the 3 hours they spent staring at the ceiling. But emotionally, it still hits you.
Totally, because your brain doesn't really process images rationally like that in the moment. You see something beautiful, and your first reaction isn't, oh, this is carefully curated content. Your first reaction is, why doesn't my life look like that? Why don't I look like that?
Yeah. And I think, okay, but to be fair, this is where I want to push back just a little on the doom and gloom side of things. Because social media has also been genuinely a powerful space for mental health conversations. Like people sharing their struggles publicly, normalizing therapy, talking about anxiety in ways that just didn't happen before.
That's true, and that's something I actually really value. Because I think for a lot of people, especially people who feel isolated or ashamed of what they're going through, seeing someone else say, hey, I'm struggling too, and that's okay, that can be genuinely life changing. Like the first time they feel seen.
Right. So it's like the same tool that causes harm is also providing the support system for people who are dealing with that harm, which is kind of wild, actually, when you think about it.
It really is. And I think that's why this conversation is so hard to have in a clean, simple way, because every argument has a counterargument. Every problem has a use case where it helped someone. It's like it resists any easy conclusion.
Yeah. And I want to bring up one more thing before we start wrapping up, because I think we haven't talked enough about creativity in education. Because, like, honestly, I have learned so much from social media languages, cooking, history, science, just from following the right people. That's real education.
No, I agree with that completely. And for English learners especially, I mean, you're listening to us right now, right? Social media, YouTube, podcasts, this is how people learn languages now, authentically, naturally, through actual content they enjoy. That's kind of amazing.
Exactly. And I think that's where the opportunity is actually. Not in banning things or pretending the platforms don't exist, but in teaching people, especially young people, how to use them intentionally with awareness.
Digital literacy, basically. Understanding that what you see online is not a neutral window onto the world. It's a curated, monetized, algorithm driven experience. And once you understand that, you start interacting with it differently. You're a little more in control.
So, where does that leave us? Like, after everything we've talked about today, where do you actually land on this, Lara? Is social media helping or hurting us?
Honestly, I land on the side of it's not social media itself that's the problem, it's the way it's designed, the incentives behind it. Like, these platforms are built to maximize engagement, not well being. And if they were built differently, the experience would be completely different. So I think my frustration is less with the technology and more with the business model.
Yeah, I think I actually agree with that. And I think the other piece is just awareness. Like simply knowing how these things work, the algorithms, the emotional triggers, the comparison traps, already gives you a little more power. You can't opt out of the system, but you can be more conscious inside it.
Right, intentional. That's honestly the word for it. Be intentional. Know why you're opening the app, know how you feel when you close it, and if you feel worse, that's information. That's worth paying attention to.
Okay, so let's wrap this up. Today, we talked about whether social media is helping or hurting us. And what I think we found is that it's genuinely both. It connects us in ways that weren't possible before. It creates opportunities. It opens up important conversations. It makes education accessible.
And at the same time, it's designed to keep us hooked. It spreads misinformation at a scale that's honestly kind of terrifying. And it can seriously affect how we see ourselves and our lives, especially if we're already feeling vulnerable. So the answer isn't to quit, the answer is to pay attention.
Pay attention to how you feel when you're scrolling. Pay attention to what you're actually getting out of it. And maybe set that phone down at midnight instead of 2 in the morning.
Okay, yes, that one was definitely aimed at me. All right, that is it for today's episode of Let's Talk Real English. If this conversation made you think, we would genuinely love to hear from you. What do you think? Is social media helping or hurting you personally? Where do you stand?
Leave us a comment, share this episode with a friend, or start this exact conversation in your own life. And if you are learning English, and hey, a lot of you are, remember that the best way to get better is to actually use it. Talk to people, disagree with them, change your mind, get a little uncomfortable. Listen to things that challenge you, and don't be afraid to speak up, even when your English isn't perfect. That's how you grow, in language and in life.
That's what real English sounds like. I'm Lara.
And I'm Eric. We'll see you in the next one.
Take care, everyone.